What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Dynasty Wire. My name is Ivan Herrera. I'm joined alongside my good friend and partner in crime, Mr. Spencer Smith, and we have a great episode for you guys today. If you guys are new to the channel, this channel is all about serving you guys in the Dynasty community, you guys that are playing fantasy football, even in the off season while no one is doing it. And of course, I want to first give a quick shout out, an intro. Spencer Smith, how are you, sir?
Hey man, doing good, doing good. I've been been getting back at it this past week, and I'm just excited for this week. I'm excited for what's to come. Me and my wife, we're going on vacation this weekend, so butterfly effect. That's why this episode's going to be a little short. It will be my fault. I'm having to work some overtime this week, and so it's going to be my fault as to why this episode's a little shorter. But we're going to Disney World this weekend, so we're going to be going to Orlando for her birthday. So her birthday was actually yesterday, but we had to plan it for this weekend, which, for someone who wants to watch the draft, it's a little unfortunate because literally we're leaving at like 6 a.m. Thursday morning to drive to Orlando, and then we're spending the rest of the time there until Sunday, and it's like, But you know what? Hey, gonna have a good time either way. Gonna have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Disney World sounds pretty awesome. Mickey Mouse, and of course, huge shout out to Miss Emily. Happy birthday to her from all of us over here too, man. So, okay, here's the rundown. We have a fun episode today. Last week, we had an episode that was called "Would You Rather," and we focused on a couple quarterbacks, and we had a list that we went through of who we would want in Dynasty. So, as we're going over this edition of running backs today, we want you guys to specify. There you go. Today's episode is Would You Rather, and it's a running back edition. And specifically, we're going to be focusing on the guys that you see on the screen. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast, it is Josh Jacobs and Kyren Williams. Two different guys that have had two different trajectories to their careers. But before we get into that, we're going to open it up, as always, with some news and notes, and then we are going to then wrap it up after we go over this running back edition of Would You Rather with the verse of the week. So with that, Spencer, the floor is yours for our news and notes.
All righty. Well, we got some, the news has been a little bit dry the past few days, but there is still some stuff. So Jim Harbaugh, coach of the LA Chargers, kept his promise and got a 15-0 Michigan tattoo the other day. So there's that. The Patriots haven't received a strong enough offer yet to move them off of the number 3 pick, per Jeremy Fowler. New England is prepared to stay put for either Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Man, I think that with the way the odds have shifted, it's kind of shifted the other day back in favor of Drake May going number 2 overall. Now, when I say back in favor, we're talking slim favor. So still very possible that Jaden Daniels could go number 2 overall. But, Drake May is my QB2 in this draft, so we'll just have to see. Both the Cardinals and the Chargers are rumored to have interest in trading down from numbers 4 and 5 picks, per Jeremy Fowler. Quote, one of these two teams are expected to trade back, and it might be more momentum with the Chargers. So to me, I don't know if that just means that maybe the Chargers have their sights set on maybe Marvin Harrison Jr., and if they can't get Marvin Harrison Jr. because someone gets them at 4, or they know they're fine with Malik Nabers or Rome Odunze, so they're willing to trade back to 7, 8, or 9 to one of those teams that might want to, or 10. I don't think Rome Odunze or Malik Nabers falls down to 10 unless the QBs are just taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would be wild. But the Broncos have received multiple trade inquiries on wide receiver Courtland Sutton, per Jeremy Fowler. The Broncos do not currently plan to trade Sutton, but multiple teams seem interested. One more Super Bowl is what Matthew Stafford said the other day. So him and his wife, they were having this interview, and to end the interview, they were talking about how they want to win one more Super Bowl with the Rams. Bills owner Terry Pegula is planning to sell roughly 25% of the team per buy Tim Graham. A 2-minute warning and helmet communication are officially coming to college football this upcoming season, per NCAA. So this is something that was talked about. This rule seems like it was made kind of swiftly. I feel like we heard about it this past season, like more seriously. And now it just seems that it is official. 2-minute warning and helmet communication. So signs obsolete. Not going to matter. Let's see. So we got one more thing here. One more thing. Tyreek Hill says that Mike McDaniel called him out after the team's playoff loss to the Chiefs, saying, quote, he said, "You're supposed to be the best player in the league. We pay you all this money, but for what?" So that's kind of crazy. So he said that on Finn's Extra. And, you know, what? I can't even remember. I think off the top of my head, I think the Dolphins, scored 9 points in the game? It was incredibly low, whatever it was. They couldn't do anything on offense, but
Right.
a little transparency there from Tyreek Hill. And just to end the note segment off right here, this is a imagine situation. The year is 2027. Chargers finally decide to get Justin Herbert a weapon and sign free agent wide receiver Puka Nacua, and Pikachu Bolt jerseys sweep the nation. Life is good. Is that actually going to happen? Probably not. But either way, that is all the news. The news has been a little bit dry as of late. I mean, it's not, we're getting really close, but as the draft gets closer, lying season was the past few weeks. We heard everything kind of happening all at once, and right now, seems like everything's kind of quieting down and really gearing up for the draft, which I am excited for. I'm excited for, man. This draft's going to be incredible. But there we go. That's all the news from around the league.
Yeah, there we go. It seems like it's the quiet before the storm comes because we've heard so many, just to your point, we've heard so many different things about potential trades, who people will be drafting, what will acquire teams to be drafting and moving up in the draft. So it's going to be very interesting to see what finally happens on Thursday, because for all we know, a lot of the stuff that you were just sharing could be just a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors. So a lot of good things to anticipate this upcoming week. Of course, as Spencer mentioned, the draft is this Thursday. So be sure to stay on the lookout on some of our reactions and things that we will be sharing our insights on. But all right, cool. So in this case, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait for it. So now let's go ahead and transition over to the Would You Rather running back edition. And again, the two players that we're selecting in this situation is going to be Josh Jacobs from the Green Bay Packers and Kyren Williams, waiver wire rock star from 2023 for the Los Angeles Rams. And Mr. Spencer, why don't you go ahead and run through the list that you have for our first running back, and that's Josh Jacobs. Who would you rather, Josh Jacobs, and who are the list of guys that will be comparing him to?
Well, how about this? How about you run through the list as I'm over here checking some of these stats right now, trying to do some of this stuff off the top of my head, and we will go.
No worries.
We'll go player by player. We'll just kind of go back and forth.
Sure. Okay, so here we go. So for Josh Jacobs, here's who we're going to be saying. Would you rather have Josh Jacobs or the following: Devon Achane, Isaiah Pacheco, Rachaad White, Travis Etienne, and then lastly, Kenneth Walker III out of the Seattle Seahawks. So let me go ahead and kick it off then. I have my first one ready. And this was a tough one, man. This list was really hard for both of these individuals. So you really chose a good list. So just giving you guys some context. Spencer is the mastermind behind this craziness. So let me go ahead and give you guys my take here. So Devon Achane or Josh Jacobs. Oh, let me switch over. There you go. Okay. So here's my take. If I had to choose between Josh Jacobs and Devon Achane, I am going to go ahead and go with Josh Jacobs. And this one was actually quite difficult. I thought it was going to be easy because my first initial gut was Devon Achane, but I may have been caught up in some recency bias because of how he did for being one of my fantasy teams, considering that he blew up for me. However, when I looked at the numbers, I love the fact that number one for Josh Jacobs, he signed, just to give you guys some context on the guy that we're focusing on here, is he signed with Green Bay on a 4-year, $48 million deal. So this guy, and I think that Spencer does such a good job of always speaking about this, especially in the context of dynasty. You want to follow the money, right? You want to see how much is a team investing for, how long are they investing for, and he got a 4-year deal, which in reality means like it's a 2 to 3 year deal for the most part, because usually that 4th year they can have an option to either move on or just not really commit to that money. So you at least have a 3-year window where you know that Josh Jacobs is going to be the main guy featured within this offense. And granted, A.J. Dillon, who was there last year with Aaron Jones, did re-sign with the Packers, but you're not really worried about A.J. Dillon taking any touches away, because in this offense, you still need a number one workhorse running back, and I believe that Josh Jacobs fits that bill. He's more of a power running back compared to that of Aaron Jones, but still was really efficient in his seasons there with the Raiders, despite them having a terrible offensive line. And in Josh Jacobs' career, he's averaged 4.2 yards per carry. I know we saw a dip last year with him only having 3.5 yards, but I attribute this all to a porous offensive line. And just to give you some context on how bad the O-line was with the Raiders, since 2019, according to PFF, the ranks for the Raiders offensive line reads as follows. They were 15th in 2019, 24th in 2020, 8th in 2021, and then 29th in 2022. And then in those same seasons, Green Bay's offensive lines were ranked 6th, 2nd, 14th, and 3rd. So Josh Jacobs is going to a much better offensive line, a much better offensive system, has an established quarterback though already, has a play caller that I think will develop and cater an offense suited for his skill set. And not that we're taking anything away from Devon Achane, but my concern about Devon Achane is we still have Raheem Mostert there. Raheem Mostert obviously had a huge season with all those touchdowns that he had scored. Now, in Devon Achane's case, he did lead the league in the following categories. He was top 3 in yards per touch, true yards per carry, breakaway run rate. And again, all those, he was top 3 in each of those categories. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the guy that has a more solidified role within this offense, someone that also has a bigger frame and for me does not give me any kind of concerns as far as injuries go. So long-winded answer, but I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs.
I agree there. I think that, the biggest issue for me when it comes to Devon Achane is it's really like kind of his strength, but it's also like a huge issue, which is it is not sustainable to be 7.77 yards per carry. That is freak number, unsustainable. We saw last year due to his size, injured quite a bit. He only played 11 games. Now, in those 11 games, again, he was on fire. 197 receiving yards, 800 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns. So 11 touchdowns total in 11 games. And again, the efficiency, because of just how fast he is. Now, the thing that we can say, hey, it's a good thing about Achane, he gained some weight in the offseason. And he has bulked up like crazy. So he definitely needed to. I don't know exactly how much weight he has gained, but the pictures from the before and after is night and day. I'll try to send it to you while we're on this podcast so you can kind of get an understanding of what I'm talking about. But he has gained some weight. He has bulked up, and you can definitely tell a difference. But I'm definitely pretty much for every reason you just said with Josh Jacobs, I'm in on Josh Jacobs versus Achane on this one. So, yeah, just I'm going to go Jacobs over Achane myself.
All right, cool. So now the next one we're going to be going over is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. And this one was actually a lot tougher because, that argument that I used for Devon Achane's case was where Josh Jacobs has more of a solidified role. I feel that Kansas City is shifting its identity more to be more of a defensive team with some great, how do I word this? It's not that they're a running team because they obviously have Patrick Mahomes, you have Travis Kelce, you have Rashee Rice, you have a few weapons there that still make that offensive passing game some, really explosive. But Isaiah Pacheco slows this team down a little bit more compared to seasons prior where they would beat you with so much explosiveness. Right. So, and where that obviously leads into where I believe that Isaiah Pacheco is such an efficient runner. I think he was 4.4 yards per carry last season, and he's someone that just runs so aggressively.
4.5. Oh, by the way, I didn't want to break, and I totally forgot to say this, but we do have breaking news. So,
do we?
ESPN's Adam Schefter is expecting, quote, at least a multi-game suspension for Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice before being released on bond. And on top of the legal issues and lawsuit that he is currently facing, Rice is also expected to be disciplined by the NFL, resulting in at least a multi-game suspension per Adam Schefter. So I kind of there's this guy, his name on X, artist formerly known as Twitter. His name is Drew Davenport. Twitter is Drew Davenport FF. He is an incredible follow on Twitter. So basically, he is a part of the Football Guys staff. He's an auction draft expert, Kings Classic auction champ. He says all this type of stuff. But the biggest reason why I follow Drew Davenport is he's he's really in tune with like what's possibly going to happen to players due to whatever legal trouble they're facing, whatever they got in trouble with, gambling, what have you. He's pretty spot on with the takes that he has. So a week ago, when it was still up in the air what's possibly going to happen, Drew Davenport said that he's expecting Rashee Rice to have a 2-game suspension. And I kind of took that at face value. And now, like we're seeing from Adam Schefter just now, coming out and saying that a multi-game suspension is more than likely what's going to occur. 2 to 3 games sounds, pretty solid. Like, I think that that's fair to say is what's probably going to happen. So we'll get to wide receivers next week on the Would You Rather. And as far as Rashee Rice, we'll just have to see if his name comes up. But I'm still comfortable with Rashee Rice in Dynasty. If he's out 2 to 3 games, that's fine. It'd be a whole lot different story if he was out half the year or even a full year. If that happens, which I doubt, that changes a lot. But if it's just a few games, I'm still comfortable with him. But anyway, I digress. Continue with Pacheco.
Yes, sir. And yeah, just to go back. So again, I'm going to go with Jacobs, dude. I was going to go with Pacheco. And when I saw his game logs, I was just remembering, dude, I didn't realize that Pacheco was RB2 with 30 fantasy points in week 17, which is what you want to see on championship week, right?
Right.
But
right.
I'm going to go ahead and lean on Josh Jacobs. We saw the thing is the snap count is favorable in Josh Jacobs' favor. You're looking from week 4 for Pacheco to week 11. He had a snap count that was between 58% to about 62 was the most, rather 63 is what he saw most. Whereas it was Josh Jacobs, he's going to expect to have more of a heavier running share there in Green Bay. So for me, it's going to be Josh Jacobs.
I think on a lot of these, I think where we're going to start to disagree is with Kyron, because I'm taking Josh Jacobs over Pacheco as well. Again, the money, solid situation in Green Bay. And, Pacheco, I like Pacheco. He's a nice runner. He runs very hard, but his best season so far out of the only 2 that he's had was last season with his RB15 finish, and we can see where there could be some issues. Yes, he was 4.56 yards per carry, had the 7 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns, but again, there are multiple weeks where even given, a ton of opportunity, you look at week 5, he was given 16 rushing attempts. He ran for 55 yards, 3.4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown against Minnesota. So not a terribly tough defense. And then he gets 13 carries against the Chargers, a terrible defense, 32 rushing yards and 2.4 yards per carry. Now, of course, this stuff is flip-flopped where you have some games where he gets 20 opportunities for 115 yards and 5 yards carry. So there's a little inconsistency there. And like you said, they have kind of switched to being more of a defensive team, but I am going to go Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, dude. I was just looking at my rankings, and I literally have here. Actually, let me read you the part where I have Josh Jacobs, because our next guy is going to be Rachaad White, and this is nuts, man. I actually had Rachaad White. So watch, here's my rankings. I have Josh Jacobs as RB10, right? I have Devon Achane as RB11. I have Rachaad White as RB13, which means I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs over Rachaad White. And you actually converted me on this take, because I was big on Rachaad White because of the fact that he has no competition there in that backfield. And he is someone that I thought was going to continue to have that. But I was looking further, and his inefficiencies was starting to worry me even more and more, because you're looking at his yards per carry. You're looking at the fact that actually in his career, granted, he's not only had a 2-year career, but he's only averaged 3.6 yards per carry last year. The year before that, 3.7. What does help you out is his floor, but that may have been because of a unique situation with the opportunities. What you got, Rachaad White or Josh Jacobs?
Oh, this one's too easy. It's Josh Jacobs. So
all right,
inefficiency with Rachaad White, no, it's too easy for me.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's see. The next one I think is easy for me on the other end. It's Travis Etienne or Josh Jacobs, and I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. I don't think there's much of a controversy there. What about you?
Yeah, so Etienne, I love Etienne. He's 25. He has dealt with some minor inconsistencies, 2 years ago, coming back from injury, missing his rookie season. But we look at this past season, and man, this past season was really, really good. He had some up and down weeks, kind of the nature really of just the Jaguars offense not being so consistent itself. But he had so many RB1, RB2, RB4, like just top 5 RB and top 6 RB weeks last year. I really like Etienne's efficiency as well. He, 5.1 yards per carry in 2022, which is solid. Now, you're not going to see that same number. It was pretty much 3.8 in 2023. But of course, he does still get the pass work. He had almost 500 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown in 2023. This one was a little closer for me. I'm not going to lie. It was not easy to pick Etienne, but I'm going to go Etienne as well.
All right, very good. So now the next one we have, the last one to round out this list is going to be Kenneth Walker the third. And for me, this is going to be a little, mine's going to be Josh Jacobs. Are you going Josh Jacobs too?
Yep.
What was your reasoning for going with Josh Jacobs over Kenneth Walker?
Well, number one, I'm already not the biggest fan of Kenneth Walker and that Seattle team right now. There's a couple pieces I like, but Kenneth Walker, unless his price is a lot lower, there's just really not a reason I want to take him where he typically goes in drafts. He finished RB19 this past season, RB18 the season before. And what is the name to Kenneth Walker's game? It's starting out really hot. Last year, weeks 2 through 7, RB14, RB3, RB14, RB8. And then he finished the rest of the year RB19, 34, 52, 7, 52, injured 2 games, 32, 8, 45, 14, 29. He's incredibly inconsistent. And also, let's just not forget that he's not even just solid pass catcher. So if you're not getting the pass catching work and you're incredibly inconsistent in the running game, whether that be due to health or what have you, your offensive line not being good, I would just take Josh Jacobs is a lot more secure to me than Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, and for me, I also see Zach Charbonnet still having a role in this offense. And yeah, you're right. Where he's getting drafted makes it really hard for you to want to invest in that kind of capital. But yeah, let's go ahead and now transition to our next running back, and that's going to be Kyren Williams out of the Los Angeles Rams. And the list that we have here for the people that we will be comparing him to is going to be the following. We have Kenneth Walker or James Cook, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor. So because time is of the essence,
Kyren Williams, not Kenneth Walker.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So it'll be Kyren Williams or those following running backs. So we'll do more of a rapid fire to make sure that we're staying on time here. So all right. So
really by the way, for those who are listening, next week we'll be back to normal long pack podcast. Again, it's my fault. Do not blame Ivan. Anybody who blames Ivan's gonna have
feel
a bad
the wrath.
Day.
With Mickey Mouse gloves, because that's where he's going. All right, so here we go. So Kyren Williams or James Cook, who you got?
Give me Kyren Williams.
Why?
I'm going Kyren Williams because although I love James Cook, I think that Kyren Williams Sean McVay is such I'm going to run my one running back into the ground type of coach. And yes, we got to see some bits and pieces of that in the second half when Stephon Diggs was not good for the team last year. They did rely more on James Cook, but it wasn't because they were running him into the ground. It was kind of they were running him, but they were also passing it to him a lot. So Kyren Williams last year was just way too incredible, and Sean McVay, until he's destroyed Kyren Williams' knees, he's just going to keep using him.
Yeah, for me, man, it's also the snap share. Led the league in that last season. Also was number 4 in red zone touches. 2 things that we would love to see there are the touches and also touchdown opportunities there.
I mean, okay, so let's this 12 games. Kyren Williams only played 12 games and had 1,144 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns, 200 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns.
That's nuts, man.
I digress.
And also won you your championship league, if you would rather your championship week, because he put up a monster one. Okay, so the next one, this conversation probably would have been trickier after 2021, but who you got, Javonte Williams or Kyren Williams?
Still going Kyren Williams. I think Javonte Williams is definitely somebody to be targeting as a buy low right now, but if it's between Kyren and Javonte, they're not on the same playing field right now. Again, like you said, maybe if it was a couple of years ago, the hype around Williams would be different. Well, Javonte Williams, but Kyren Williams, all the way.
That's right. Yeah, and for me, it's kind of similar. It's because we saw that Javonte Williams was so good as a dual threat running back, and unfortunately, with the injury, that obviously leads some question marks there. Now, DeAndre Swift had a reemergence last year with Philadelphia. Now signs with the Chicago Bears. So we got DeAndre Swift or Kyron Williams. Who you got?
Now, the reason I put him in here is because, you've got that argument of the money, but
Right.
this is one of those situations where while DeAndre does have some good skill, both of them, Kyron and DeAndre, deal with injury. There's no doubt.
Right.
But the situation that they're placed in, DeAndre doesn't have to be the guy. There's two other guys there right now. Kyron still has to be the guy. And
That's right.
for that reason, and for the fact that I know he's got the skill, give me Kyron Williams.
There we go. Yeah, and I'm similar on that as well. It was good to see DeAndre Swift reemerge with Philadelphia after having a few kind of weird seasons there with Detroit. But yeah, I'm gonna have to lean on you with that, even though I think the situation could be better in Chicago. But yeah, to your point, we know that he's not gonna be the only one there, and you want to try to stay away from any kind of committees. Okay, cool. Last two, these are gonna be a little bit more tricky. So Saquon Barkley or Kyron Williams.
All right, give me Saquon, and the reason why is because in Dynasty, yes, we want a long time with our players. That's the point. Sometimes, though, you just got to look at, okay, I know that Saquon, what is my next 2 to 3 years going to look like with these players? Saquon being with Philly and behind top 5 O-line in the league, yes, Jason Kelce is gone. But with him being there, having the money attached to him, look, I think that we're about to see a version of Saquon that we've been wanting to see for 5 years. I think that what he was able to do his rookie season and what he was able to do 2 years ago behind just bottom of the barrel offensive line, we're about to see take absolute center stage and absolutely just go ballistic with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm trying not to be biased, but I think the better trade value is probably with Kyron, but who do I want on my fantasy team dominating week in and week out? And behind a much better O-line who can probably stay better protected, I'm going to go Saquon Barkley. But it's very close. It's very close, but I'm going Barkley.
Yeah, and just to give you context on how close it's on my list, I have Saquon Barkley RB5, Kyron Williams RB8. So both are top 10 options. Both are RB1 options for me, guys that I would only consider drafting in the round in the first round. And very similar. Saquon's in a better situation, contract, and not that we ever want to wish this on someone, but Kyron Williams doesn't have any kind of guaranteed contract where if anything were to happen to him, the Rams are stuck with him, so they can just always pivot. Right. Now, I think that this last one is very intriguing as well, but I would assume that you probably are going to utilize the same kind of argument when it comes to Jonathan Taylor or Kyron Williams.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is one of my favorite running backs in the league. The situations have become a little different. We don't know what it's going to be like with Anthony Richardson, but I got to trust my gut that when he's on the field, it's like Breece Hall. When Jonathan Taylor's on the field, it's just different. Like Jonathan Taylor is just incredible. I know Kyron is too. This one to me is super close, but I'm going with my rankings as well. And I know I've got Jonathan Taylor above Kyron Williams, and I've got to go Jonathan Taylor. But he's also one of my favorite. He's not my, number 1 or number 2 anymore. But I'm going Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and for me, very similar to you, just the athletic ability of Jonathan Taylor. I mean, his 40-yard dash was 97th percentile. His speed score is in the 99th percentile. So this guy is absolutely phenomenal. And I just love this offense as well and believe great things are going to happen with Jonathan Taylor, hopefully healthy, but he's been very efficient. Also has the ability to be a dual threat running back. So I'm going to go ahead and go. And again, I think we're just splitting hairs, with these last two, where if you have any of these guys on your team, you'll be really solid, but I'm going to go also with Jonathan Taylor over Kyron Williams. All right, cool. So that was our Would You Rather running back edition, Blitz edition, but it'll be up and ready for you guys on the podcast for audio, and obviously we'll stay here on YouTube as well for those that are here on the live stream. But all right, so let's go ahead and now transition really quick to the last part of our show, and that's going to be the verse of the week, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, and it reads as follows: Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. Let each of you look out only for his own interest, but also for the interests of others. And I love this one because our church is currently in a series called Family Circus, and I love the whole title because the context behind it is that being in families can be kind of a circus, and a lot of the times it can be hard to navigate through just the entire conflicts of life. And in this verse, it was a good reminder of let nothing be done through selfish ambition. And me and Spencer have been really open about we want to be better for our marriages, for our families, and sometimes a lot of the issues root back to our selfishness. They root back to our pride. And I love this verse because it challenges us to not do anything through selfish ambition, but in loneliness of mind, let each esteem others than themselves. And that can be hard because in our situations when we're mad, we want to focus on what's making us mad as opposed to the other person, which could be our spouse, which could be our family, could be our friend, or it could be even just our coworker. So having that challenge this week of not esteeming myself as high as I think I am is definitely going to be something that I will challenge myself. And hopefully you guys can encourage yourselves to do the same as we go into our new week on this Monday.
Yep. And, I don't remember the quote exactly. So, maybe I'll find the quote and have it for next week's podcast. But, you hear a lot of people, whether it be athletes, actors, whatever it is, but you hear a lot of people who try to be a bit more humble, basically say that the same hill that they'll praise you on, the same mountain you're climbing is the same one that they're going to be. Just the higher you get, the more they're going to dog on you, the more they're going to, there's a quote that Kirk Cousins said, man, he said something about how, like, if I could walk on water, they'd say it's because I can't swim or something like that. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? So, like, the praise is fake, the hate is fake. And I agree with what you had to say. My verse of the week is going to be Acts 4:12. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. And of course, this is through the Father. There's no one else. There's nowhere else you can go except through Jesus to know the Father, right? So just thought that would be some nice words of encouragement, especially as we live in this day and age where everything is kind of confusing, and everybody's kind of looking for or some people are, they're looking for, I love Christianity. I would love to become a Christian. So I think that some people just need to understand that the only way to know the Father, the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus Christ. And again, Acts 4:12, there is no other name under heaven. And so no matter what you're hearing, whether that be through this program, this denomination, this religion, there's no other name and no other way. And that's a whole series that we could even get into on some other side podcast about just the differences between, the different religions and what they have to say, what some of them have to say about Jesus, because a lot of different religions do speak on Jesus. But yes, no other name. No other name.
Amen. Well, there you go, guys. Well, hopefully you guys were encouraged by that. And of course, as always, as we get ready to land the plane here, we want to remind you guys to please be sure to subscribe and follow to our audio podcast. We have it up on Apple and Spotify. We have that up shortly after we do our live stream here on YouTube. And if you are here on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. We will obviously encourage you guys to continue to subscribe, continue to also hit that push notification bell. That way you are notified whenever we go live on our channel. And then Mr. Spencer Smith, why don't you go ahead and break it down to us on how our followers can follow us on our social media platforms?
Absolutely. At the Dynasty Wire, or at Dynasty Wire on Instagram, at Dynasty Wire on TikTok, and at the Dynasty Wire on X, artist formerly known as Twitter. We'll be doing polls over there. We're kind of, we just get the feel on what the community has to say about certain stuff. So make sure you follow us there, and of course, subscribe to the podcast and all that stuff. But yeah,
absolutely, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We pray you guys have a phenomenal week, and get ready. We have the NFL draft happening this Thursday. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See ya.